It is bloody hot right now. We're heading into peak summer period here in Australia, and if you ride anywhere that has extreme heat, this video is for you. So every time I'm out there on the bike, when those temperatures are hitting the 30 degrees Celsius, I start thinking, man, this is seriously getting too hot to ride. And that gets me wondering, what are the actual dangers? How should I prepare? And when is it just too hot to ride? I've done some research and I want to share it with you so you can make smarter, safer choices whenever you ride too. So I started looking at this because recently I did a ride that was fine over a couple of hours, but as summer's ramping up, I had this thought. I don't really know what the heat is actually doing to my body on those hot days when I'm riding my bike. And that is even more so now that I'm getting older. So I'm in Queensland, Australia, and here we're dealing with humid 30-degree plus heat. But this applies whether you're in the Arizona desert, the Mediterranean, or anywhere where the mercury is pushing 40. So let's break down exactly what happens. So first, let's think about it. Us as the rider, what are the first signs? The first sign is dehydration. Now this means when you get dehydrated, you're going to have slow reactions, you're going to have reduced focus, and essentially you're going to just be a less capable rider. Now if that keeps going, you're going to start getting the symptoms of heat exhaustion. Now heat exhaustion, that's when you have heavy sweating, you get dizziness and cramps. And this is a major warning stage. So in this case, we really need to stop, get cool, and drink immediately. So worse still comes heat stroke. And this is where things get very dangerous. You're going to start getting confusion, a faster heart rate, and sometimes your skin just stops sweating altogether. Now if that's happening, that's a medical emergency and you need to get help. And also remember that fatigue and sunburn will also chip away at your concentration and speed up that overheating. And here's a painful truth. When the air temp gets above 35, that wind blast is acting like a hairdryer and not a fan. So it's actually adding heat to your body. Now this is very interesting. Your age, it truly matters in how your body is going to handle the heat. Now the same temperature can have very different responses at different age groups. So let's talk about that. Now if you're under 30, your body has very efficient cooling, you got faster recovery, and the main risk is really just your overconfidence. You might push too hard and ignore the hydration altogether. Now at the ages of 30 to 45, your thermoregulation is still solid, but your recovery starts to slow. Now electrolytes, they stop being optional and start being really helpful on longer rides. Now in that 45 to 60-year-old bracket, this is a critical zone, so your sweat efficiency is declining. It's putting you at a higher risk of cramping and fatigue. And unfortunately, I'm now in this bracket. Also, crucially, you should check your medicines. Many common ones can worsen dehydration and frequent breaks are required. A lot of us getting back into riding later in life are in that 45 plus bracket. So we need to really take this info seriously. Now if you're over 60, this is pretty serious stuff. You have significantly reduced heat tolerance, heat stress hits fast, and your recovery is slow. So avoid those long midday rides and stick to the early mornings or evening with a full cooling setup. So it's not just us, the bikes actually suffer too. So you'll stress your engine in traffic, especially for air-cooled motors like my Harley Davidson here. You also got to consider your tyre pressure because the tyre pressure rises with heat and that can change your grip and your feel. And a critical road safety note, for hot climates, it's good to watch out for those tar snakes on the road. Now in that high heat, the road patching compound, it can soften and they can get really slick like you're riding on oil or ice on a hot day. So ease off the lean angle when you see those tar snakes. So then it makes you wonder, how do we fight back against this? The key is preparation. So water is first. We need to sip water regularly. We don't just wait until we're thirsty. That's generally already too late. And for a long, hot ride, replacing those salts is essential. And we need to grab ourselves some hydrolyte or electrolyte powder of your choice. But we also need to be smart about what we drink. For example, that early morning cuppa or a couple of tinnies after a night on the night before, well, they help speed up that fluid loss. So maybe reconsider your choices before you're going on a ride the next day when it's going to be hot. Now, a great hydration check is to look at your urine. Now, pale straw yellow is good. If it looks like apple juice, well, guess what? You need to stop and rehydrate properly. Now, when you are taking those breaks, don't just pull up out in the hot sun, out on the hot asphalt. We need to get out there in some shade, some deep shade where it's cooler, get some fluids into us so we can cool our body core down. Now, when it comes to gear, it's recommended to use ventilated gear, mesh, moisture wicking base layers, and light colors if you have them. Now, cooling vests are a fantastic option, and if you're going to be out in the sun, remember, sunscreen. Now, it's worth mentioning, I'm not here to tell anyone how much gear to ride with. You know, for everyone, that's a personal choice. And for me, I'm a at-gat guy. I like all the gear all the time. But the heat impacts are the same whether you're in full gear, half gear, or no gear. So no gear is going to feel cooler in the short term, but that wind on your bare skin, that can rapidly speed up your dehydration and give you sunburn. So let's talk about ride duration. So how long is too long on a hot day? Let's say a short 15 to 30 minute ride. Now this is usually pretty manageable, but the risk here is that you may already start out dehydrated, and if you're not wearing gear or not covering up, skip the sunscreen. Now the medium ride, say 1 to 2 hours, dehydration and fatigue can still build pretty fast, and you absolutely need at least one stop in a shaded area and make sure you have a decent drink. Now for those longer rides, say 3 or 4 hours plus, this is a high risk. You need to treat it like endurance riding, for example. You need electrolytes, we need fixed brakes, and we also need to pace ourselves. Now, the longer we ride, the more critical the hydration is, gear, planning, and knowing your age-related limits. So, what is too hot? So once we hit the 32 to 35 degrees Celsius, the dehydration risk, that climbs fast. And between 38 and 40, that's where most riders just say, no, I'm done. I'm calling it quits. And just remember, humidity will make all these numbers feel 10 times worse. And I can tell you, here in Queensland, we have humidity. So the rule of thumb, if it's too hot for the kit, a lot of riders would argue, well, it's just too hot to ride. So the bottom line is simple, ride smart. And that means be proactive about your hydration, make smart gear choices, respect the road, and know what your age-related limits are. Short trips, they're manageable, but longer rides in high heat, they absolutely demand some planning. And older riders, me included, we need to be especially cautious. And those younger riders, just watch your overconfidence. Make sure that you are staying hydrated. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, I want to thank you very much for watching. Give us a like and subscribe, and follow me on my journey to returning to motorcycling after a 30-year break. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.